Greetings. My name is Kate Rademacher, and I'm here with Writing for Your Life. And I am delighted to be with Antonette Cleveland, who's a new author and also, I think, a longtime participant in Writing for Your Life and Publishing in Color events and workshops. So it's really exciting to be here with Antonette to hear about her new book and her writing journey. Antonette, maybe I can just start off by asking you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your new book and how this emerged for you.
Absolutely. I am Antonette Cleveland. I am a mother of four wonderful kids. I've been married for almost 21 years, coming up in July. I'm a graduate of Clark Atlanta University, but for the past 17 years or so, I have been a stay-at-home mom. And the writing journey, or a little bit about the book, which is The Boy Who Wished for a New Mom, and I actually have just a screenshot there. Um, One day, my daughter and I were having a conversation, and my girls have a tendency to refer to me as the mean mom when they can't get their way. And so this was one of those moments where my daughter was having a conversation that was not working in her favor. She wanted something that I had declined, and
Uh-huh.
continue to try to plead her case, and it was not working. And as she's talking, this story begins to download, and I really can't describe the moment or even how it happened. The only thing I knew was that I needed to get to my laptop and I needed to start typing. And when I finished typing, the manuscript was centered around not a girl, oddly enough, but a boy. It was an 8-year-old boy, disgruntled boy, who took his mother's love for granted. Um, Throughout the story, he refers to his mother as my mean mama, kind of like my daughter was doing at the moment. And so one day he meets a genie who grants him two wishes. And one of his wishes is to have a new mama. But he soon realizes that his mean mama wasn't so mean after all. And so the journey began in 2019. That's when I wrote the book, 2019, the fall of 2019. And I wrote the manuscript and I put it on the shelf. I didn't think that I would be able to publish, or if I even wanted to publish, because I attended conferences, publishing in color, and met so many authors and agents and publishers. And I thought, this whole writing journey, I'm not sure if it's for me. And so I put it on the shelf, and then I felt this conviction, right? Because sometimes we can desire to do something, and God gives us the desires of our heart, but we don't move on it. We just kind of let it sit because we doubt ourselves. Fear kicks in and we say, well, I'm not capable of doing it. And we start comparing ourselves to other authors or other individuals who have published books, and those books have done well. And we think, oh, I'm not sure if I'm cut out for this. But I felt this conviction, and I went to the shelf and pulled the manuscript down, and the journey began. The journey of finding the right illustrator, the journey of finding the right editor, the journey of finding the right formatter, things that I knew I could not do myself. And what helped was, again, connecting with other individuals within different groups. Again, one being publishing in color and writing for your life, which I would go to the YouTube videos and I would watch and just kind of study the individuals that were being interviewed at the time. And that's what kind of gave me that extra drive, that extra push. And I was able to complete the book. Now, it was 2019 when I started, but it was like last month when I actually published. So there's a big gap there, right? But I would have to say this: writing a book is a marathon. In case you can stop me if I'm going too far with sharing, but
No,
writing
this is
a
great.
book, well, writing a book of any type, right? Whether it's a children's book, whether it's a novel, a series, it's a marathon. You know, it's not a sprint. And so there is a lot that is packed into writing that book. Again, making sure that you have the right people on your team. I am an indie author or independent author, so there's the financial aspect of it. I don't know about anyone else, but in my household, we have what's called a budget. And I can tell you, budget runs my house. And if budget says not now, then guess what? Not now is what it is. But during that time of saving and gathering information, I realized that had I moved forward when I wrote the manuscript, I don't think it would have turned out like it did. And the reason being because, again, I didn't have all of the right people in place. I didn't have enough knowledge to push the book where it needed to go. And then the research helped me to the research helped me to work with budget to understand the costs associated with this project. The worst thing I think that can happen is going into a project and not having all of your numbers in place. My husband is so big on knowing my numbers, right? It's like, okay, what are your numbers? How much is this going to cost? And how much is this going to cost? Okay, but you didn't factor this in and you didn't factor this in. Now we need to go back and look at this set of numbers. And when you add it all up, you find out, wow, you're about $2,000, more or additional costs. So it was a lot of planning, and making sure that I did not put the family in a lopsided position as a stay-at-home mom, right? And so I had to be, extra careful, but then making sure again that the people that I reached out to were knowledgeable and that they understood the vision. They understood where I was trying to go, or the message that I was trying to send or communicate to my audience. So it was a very, I would say, laborious, arduous task and journey, but so well worth it when the book was in my hand. And I said, oh, this is good.
Well, congratulations and thanks be to God. And I love listening to your journey because it's both, it sounds like it was very much God-led, spirit-led, and practical, thinking about the money. And I think you have a lot of wisdom in really thinking about the budget that I know I lacked when I published my first book, because I just didn't know. And I didn't have, I didn't have a sense of what was realistic. And so, can you just talk a little bit more about how did you learn by doing, or it sounds like you gained a lot of wisdom listening to other writers. Is that a good way of saying it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here again, it was a lot of research. I mean, it was going to YouTube, it was joining different Facebook pages and listening or reading to reading some of the other posts or comments that were there in terms of, oh, hey, you might want to consider this right here. I'll give you an example. I had an attorney that did my contract. And that was an additional, cost as well. But the attorney helped me to understand the difference between work for hire and royalties. If the attorney had not stepped in to explain, okay, this is work for hire, there are no royalties associated with this, I could have found myself in a very awkward position. So I had to look and say, okay, where do I really need to spend money and what can I do myself? So it was again, looking at those Facebook posts, reading those comments, going to YouTube. And in addition to that, I would sometimes send an email to the YouTuber, and sometimes to the illustrator, and sometimes to the author, and sometimes they would respond and sometimes they didn't. But there was one particular illustrator that I work with, and I'm just talking about resources and reaching out, that really helped me along the way. He became like a consultant, and I would say, well, how did you do this? Okay, what are some things that I need to know that you wish you had known during your publishing process? So it's really having the notion of, hey, I don't know everything, and I need to pull on the wisdom and knowledge of individuals who know more than I do, and they don't mind sharing that wisdom.
That's great. Well, and my understanding is the book is actually getting released or has been released this month. So again, congratulations. And can you, now that the book is available out in the world, can you tell us sort of what your next steps are? If you had a launch party, are you doing, book readings, and how are you getting the word out?
So I have my launch party was last Sunday. It was actually a virtual launch party, and it was a lot of fun. I had my illustrator as my special guest, and so we were able to talk a little bit more about the book, the illustration process. Using Instagram has been a platform that I've used as well in launching the book, and then word of mouth, which is always the best form of advertisement. The feedback has been just overwhelmingly good. Like, when you put out a product, you really don't know whether or not the audience will resonate, or it will resonate with the audience, right? You don't know if they're going to receive it. And so that's probably some anxiety that goes along with, releasing a product, whether it's a book or, a retail product, whatever it is. And so in this case, with it being a book, the feedback has just been wonderful. And it tells me, okay, they got the message. The message was not misinterpreted. The illustrations so vibrant, so colorful. When a child can come back to me and say, that was really relatable, because I don't like to clean my room either. And this is just an illustration in the book where the young boy, Cameron, who was the narrator as well, he thinks his mom is so mean because she makes him pick up his clothes off the floor. And so when a young child can come back and say, I don't like cleaning up either, but at the end realizes my mom is not being mean because she tells me to pick up my clothes off the floor, then it tells me that, yeah, my illustrator understood the assignment, my formatter understood the assignment, everyone on the team understood the assignment. So the feedback has just been great. And not only from kids, I'll say this, even adults have given just wonderful feedback, because for some of them, they've had these nostalgic moments where it's like, wow, I remember that was me as a child, and I thought my mom was mean, and look at me now. I'm better because she had standards. I'm better because she didn't give into societal norms, or what we may consider societal norms. I'm better because she had expectations and she would not lower them to my 8-year-old then self, and then they would tell me, I'm going to get this book for my daughter. because she would really enjoy reading it to her kids or having her kids to read it. So that's been exciting.
It's so wonderful. And again, congratulations. So I have to ask the big question, which is, how do your kids feel about it?
Oh, goodness.
So
Okay.
tell us how old your kids are and what do they think of the book?
Okay, so my kids are 16. Now you gotta bear with me because I get their ages mixed up and they do not like it. So let me see if I can get it right. 16, 14, 12, and soon to be 10. I think I got it right. So I have 4. My kids were a part of the journey since the infancy of this project, and they gave a lot of input. And they were not offended at all. And I think it's because the reality is that mom is not really being mean, and I know I should be doing this anyway. And so they gave input during the writing phase, and they were the ones who picked out the actual illustration style. So I had several books that were on the table. I knew which illustration style that I wanted, and I wanted to get their opinion. So I put several books on the table, and I said, okay, can you all decide which illustration style you like? And they all selected the same style, which was the representation style, which was more realistic. Quite the opposite of what I had in mind. I wanted something that was more fantasy, because we have the genie in the story, and they were like, no, mom, this one right here. So I decided to go with their recommendation, and I think it worked out. So I'm sure they see themselves somewhere in the book, but I want people to know that it's not based on them. I didn't want to write a book and then they look and say, well, mom, you were talking about me in this book. Oh my goodness, really, mom? So it's not one particular child, but it's the journey of motherhood, the love of a mother and her child, and sometimes how the child can see the mother's love as being mean.
I love it. And I love that your kids were involved in guiding you and supporting you. So that's really beautiful. And so I mean, if I know this is hard to say, but what are your hopes for the book? I mean, do you feel like you have something in mind specifically, or do you is this kind of like you're just open to what happens next?
Well, for the book, now are you talking more so the message of the book or what's next after the book?
The message of the book, are you hoping to sort of reach a particular audience, or again, are you kind of like letting it, because I think that's for me always a tricky one, which is how whether to be prescriptive of that or let things unfold. So I'm just curious sort of where you stand on that.
So I would hope that if it is a parent that is reading the book, a mother in particular, and the mother in this case, in how I'm defining her, doesn't necessarily mean someone who has birthed a child, but it can be a foster mother. It can be that individual who has stepped in to help take care of nieces and nephews. I would hope that she would feel seen. I want her to feel valued, and I want her to feel appreciated. When she's standing in the kitchen, because there's one illustration where she's preparing food and the child is like, I don't want this. I hope that she still sees her value and her worth, because at the end of the day, her labor of love will be rewarded. And that's what I want her to feel. All throughout the book and the illustrations, she's smiling. Even though he's disgruntled, she's still smiling, and she's doing it out of love. And it's what she wants to do. And for the child, I would hope that he or she would realize again that the love of a mother comes in many forms. It comes in the form of provision, comes in the form of protection, the form of encouragement. There's one illustration where mom is at the soccer game and she's yelling and cheering for him, and he's like side-eyeing her like, can you not stop? You're loud, But it comes in so many different forms. And I think at the end of the book, he realizes, hey, I love this mean mama. So that's really the message. Now, what I do want to be clear about the book is that it is not designed to shade dads. It is not designed to discredit the fathers, because I can say personally for myself, I am the mother that I am because my husband is the dad and husband that he is. And so I was looking for his feedback when the book was written to kind of see how he, how he felt. And when he looked at it, he said, this was my mama. I didn't like my mama either. I probably shouldn't have shared that, but that's what he said. But I'm so glad he had a mean mama, because he can cook, he can clean, he can do it all. So I'm glad he had a mean mama. But it is not designed to downplay the roles of the dad. I think each book has a target audience, and you have to identify that target audience and then find a way to make sure that there is no misinterpretation regarding the goal and the focal point of this book. With Mother's Day coming up, it's targeting mothers to say, hey, you're doing a good job. Even if young Johnny, who was 7 or 8 years old, may not see that, hey, you're doing all right. Pat yourself on the back.
Well, I love that. And as you say, it's perfect timing for Mother's Day. So great timing there. So this is just really exciting. And I guess one of my final questions, two final questions, is sort of how can people find the book and how can they learn more about you? And then just like any final sort of advice or words of wisdom or words of encouragement to someone who may be kind of on a similar journey to you, but maybe kind of earlier in the process. Like what have you learned that you really want to share with others?
Absolutely. Well, you can find the book, The Boy Who Wished for a New Mama, on Amazon.com. And you can find more about me by going to AntonetteCleveland.com. That's AntonetteCleveland.com. What was your last question, Kate? I'm sorry.
Just, any final words of advice or words of wisdom to share with other writers who are maybe on a similar journey than you, but also maybe earlier in the process?
Absolutely. So again, understand that writing is a marathon. Take your time. Don't feel as if you have to rush into it. Do as much research as you can. And even in research, that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't make mistakes, but you will make less mistakes. Attend writing conferences. Yeah, we've already talked about, publishing in color and writing for your life. Wonderful conferences to attend. Reach out to other authors who have traveled down this road. Illustrators, make sure if you're doing a children's book, make sure you vet that illustrator. Don't be so quick to just kind of go and get anyone. You want to make sure that you are getting someone who understands your vision and someone who operates in integrity and then character as well. And then see it all the way to the end. It will get hard. You may feel like, giving up, but it's well worth it in the end. And Kate, can I say this real quick? Toward the end of the process, we had some technical difficulties with the files. And as I'm sending the corrections, I get a phone call that my grandmother passed. This is right at the end of this book journey. And so if at that moment, I really didn't know if I wanted to continue. But found enough strength to continue forward. And so I'll say you will have those challenges where you may not want to, but you got to do it. You got to do it. Find the strength. Even if you have to take a step back for a day or so, find the strength and keep going. And if by chance you feel as if this is too much, look, the sun will still rise and it will still set. Put it off until you are ready, come back and continue on.
Thank you so much for that. And I'm sorry about your grandfather. And you know, I'm sure he's so proud of you and this incredible accomplishment. So congratulations again. And can you flash the book up for us again so we can see the cover?
And I'll say, Kate, if I said my grandfather, it was my grandmother, my
Oh, I'm
mother's
sorry, your
mother.
grandmother. Yes, I'm sorry.
But I'm sure, honey, she's probably telling Peter, James, and John and all of them, my grandbaby wrote a book, y'all.
The Boy Who Wished for a New Mama by Antonette Cleveland, and you can find it on Amazon. And thank you so much for this interview. You are an amazing speaker. So I see in your future maybe doing some speaking circuits. And just really congratulations again on the book. And hopefully we can stay in touch and continue to encourage each other on the writing journey. So thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kate.
And best wishes on the next steps of the launch, including Mother's Day coming up.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.